This is, it's probably the biggest error of all being made by people who are struggling to write, is they have a kind of imagined piece of writing floating around in their consciousness, and that imagined piece of writing that they'll one day hypothetically produce is perfect. It's exactly the right piece of fiction, written in exactly the right kind of way. Unfortunately, of course, that imagination you have is a fairly fuzzy kind of experience. You can't imagine an entire novel in your head. You can imagine general senses of the thing, maybe a scene or two, maybe the feel or rhythm of the prose, maybe the emotional or thematic elements of the text are in some way apparent to you. So you can get a general feel for the text, but you never, ever see the fully written object in your head. I mean, if you did, writing would get fairly easy after a while. You just transcribe the fully formed thing in your head onto paper. That simple, problem solved. That's just not how creativity works in general. It's certainly not how creative writing seems to work, at least for most people. So you're waiting for a perfect idea in your head, and that perfect idea is never going to happen. Let alone the perfect object, the perfect actual piece of writing you might produce. That won't happen either, because perfection's impossible. But it's sure as hell not going to work as just this floating kind of sensation in your head. So you got to stop waiting for the perfect concept to make itself available to you just in your mind. At some point, I mean, again, it's going to seem like a kind of hokey bit of advice and something's quite obvious. At some point, you just have to bite the bullet and start something. And of course, not just start it, but finish it. For some reason, people get really caught up on needing every bit of their work to be something important or meaningful. I can't write this other thing because it's, in some sense, it's going to take away from the thing I should be writing. This imagined novel in my head that I haven't even started yet that feels great in my head. I can't write this short story because then I'm wasting my juice, maybe, where my juice should be reserved for the novel. Writers are full of juice, by the way, like an orange. Or what else has juice? Kumquats? What is a kumquat? If anybody knows what a kumquat is, please let me know in the comments. I've always wondered. Do kumquats have juice? There's a question for the ages. My point is that at some point you just have to be a little bit bolder in your decision making and stop toying with the perfect idea in your heads. Just stop waiting for the perfect idea. It's a mirage. It's never going to happen. You need to, at some point, simply take action. Writing is a doing. What makes writers writers is not ultimately what they write, but that they write. That's what makes you a writer. It's that you perform the activity of writing as a part of your general lifestyle. That makes you a writer. And so, the trite advice I'm giving here is, even if you figure out kind of what you want in a general sense, but you can't land on the perfect story you want to apply it in, it's just, I'm going to swear here, fuck the perfect story. It ain't going to come. It certainly ain't going to come just by trying to toss a few ideas around in your head. You will be waiting forever. You got to just pick something and do that, understanding that it's probably not going to be the right piece. You know, you'll get the right piece eventually, but you're not going to get there by writing nothing. You have to, at some point, just start something. Start anything at all, frankly. If that's what you want, if you want to learn how to figure out what you need to write, then my answer is write anything at all, frankly. That's a good start. That'll get the ball rolling. The real upside of just starting. That's my advice. Just start something. The real upside is that the work, any kind of work, I would imagine, frankly, any creative work, but certainly creative writing, the work makes itself apparent to you by doing the act of work. I'm going to just talk about my experience for a second here. This might seem familiar to some of you, but if I've left writing aside for a little while, let's say I haven't written any fiction for a few months, and that's what it's been like for me recently. I had not written fiction for quite a while. In your head, it feels like a foreign activity, as if you'd never even done it in the first place. You've forgotten what it even feels like to write, and you get the sense that you really don't know how to do it anymore. This is something that catches even me. I'm someone who calls myself a writer. I've got a bunch of followers. People pay me money to write. And even for me, there'll be times where I get stuck trying to build the perfect writing object in my head, the perfect piece of writing in my head, because I'm waiting to make the plunge as a writer into the act of writing for something to be good. If it's not good, it's going to make me feel like shit to be writing. And I know it's going to make me feel shit to write bad writing, so I avoid it and wait for the right idea to come along. I know for a fact that this is the wrong way to go about it. And usually I'm pretty good at avoiding this problem for most of my writing time. And the way to avoid it is, again, by just jumping in and doing it. And it's in the doing that you'll see results. You will get the sense of being a writer, of the ease of being a writer, of the competence of being a writer by being in the act of writing. Give it 20 minutes, give it 30 minutes of writing garbage, which it probably will be, and sooner or later, things will start to feel much more natural. You'll feel like a writer again, because to be a writer is to do writing. It's like anything. To be a basketball player is to do basketball. To be a cook is to do cooking. And you only feel like a cook if you are cooking. And that applies to any doing. So if you really need to feel like you're doing the right thing in order for you to kind of pick your project, that feeling only comes 30 minutes into the process, where you've been unloading a bunch of sentences and thoughts and actually starting to produce the neurochemistry at the neurochemical level that makes writing, or a writer's mind, a writer's mind. You have to get your brain into that state before you can feel comfortable in it. And the beauty of this is that ideas don't work as singular objects. They work in correspondence to other ideas. They build upon each other. Ideas happen in tangents. There's a kind of network. One idea occurs and another idea opens its door to you, and maybe three more from that one. So, again, this is the virtue of just doing it, of just starting. It's not only that it just avoids the problem of decision paralysis. It's that your good ideas will come only once you're in a stage of applying ideas with a writer's mind. Once you're applying ideas with a writer's mind, even when it's clumsy, you're going to start to see the doors of other concepts and ideas opening up for you as you go. And the more you do it, the more doors will open. And then hopefully before you know it, the piece will in some sense be writing itself, and you'll wonder why you ever struggled to figure out what it is you should write in the first place, because that'll be figured out by the writing of it. Okay, that's the end of the video. Thanks so much for hanging around. Please feel free to leave a comment. I love to see comments. I will interact with you if you comment. You can interact with each other in the comments if you like. I really want to turn this into something of a community where we can all express ourselves. It is your story after all, not my story. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below and seek me out on Instagram, and I am doing a little bit of work on TikTok, so you can seek me out there as well. If you want to get some of my existing content into your brain to help you develop yourself as a writer. So thanks for being around. We'll see you next time for the next Paterson Story video. Until then, peace out.